Welcome to our podcast brought to you by Markov ML. I'm Deirdre Mahon. I'm here at the Markov ML studio. And for our listeners today, Markov ML is providing AI agents for modern go-to-market teams. It's all about getting our work done more efficiently and, of course, giving you time back to focus on your high-value work. I encourage you to check it out, markovml.com. So the name of the podcast, what's data and AI got to do with it? So those are the topics we'll be diving into today. And for any of our listeners, if you're relying on data and information to get your job done, so you can have better insights, make decisions, move faster, take the right actions, this is for you. As we know, there's no shortage of data. It's spread out, which makes it harder to access and get clear answers. It's scattered across the apps and systems, and hopefully most of you have various reports and dashboards that you lean on all the time. And the real question is, what are you doing with that data and information? And are you learning something new? And more importantly, are you using it to move the needle in the right direction? Revenue and growth. So the podcast will feature guests like Kirti, I'll introduce her in a minute, practicing marketing teams and professionals. The goal is to give you practical advice and be informative. Let's be authentic, talk about the challenges, no judgment, only learning. So our guest today is Kirti Dewan, and Kirti is the CMO at Fiddler. So let's get started. Kirti, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into marketing.
Thanks for having me, Deirdre. It's great to be here. Um, I have been at Fiddler for 3.5 years now. Fiddler is a AI startup, and we monitor the behavior, health, and performance of machine learning models and LLM applications. Prior to Fiddler, I was at another startup. I was there for 3.5 years. It was called Bugsnag. We did mobile and web application observability. And then we were acquired at the end of that. And I've been a bunch of other startups and then big companies as well. So combination of big tech as well as startups. So that's been super fun. I have a background in engineering. That was my bachelor's. And my first job out of school was a solutions engineer slash sales engineer. And it was quite an experience. I thought that and this was back in India, I thought the market was very, very price sensitive. And so I wanted to be in something that was not so much so about how much does this cost, but something where you could figure out more of that value that you could impart to people and they could see that value. And so it turns out that I landed up becoming the third employee in the Gartner operations in India. So they were just opening up their offices there. And I became the third employee there, which was a big pivot because I landed up in market research and market intelligence. And that's how the world of marketing opened up to me. And from there, I transferred over to the San Jose office of Gartner and I got my MBA. And then from there on, did marketing programs and then did a majority of my path after that was in product marketing. And then over the years, the piece that was missing was the demand gen piece. And so learned that on the job at the startups with my own consulting and fractional work that I was doing. And so managed to get that full, well-rounded aspect of all the different marketing disciplines coming together.
Brand and demand, they have to work together, as we know, especially in young growing startups. And I didn't know that you had the engineering background in Gartner, so that's really interesting. Yeah, definitely
Yes.
a nice, enjoyable ride.
Yes, for sure. Yes, it's been a roller coaster, but so much learning and it's fun.
Yeah, always learning. So let's dive into our questions. Tell us why data is important and is it critical to your success?
Yes, for sure. So without data, don't think we would be here. Without data, I don't think my team would be here. I wouldn't know what to do at Fiddler or at any other job that I've been at before Fiddler. So I think data it's really the engine that helps you survive and thrive. And data is what we need so that we can learn and improve. So in true in true machine learning jargon, you need that feedback loop, right? You see how the model is operating, you take that feedback, it has to go back to train and improve the model. So data is what helps you do that. So I think it's really critical and it's really fundamental And it helps on just so many different levels, whether it's qualitative or quantitative.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love the machine learning, and we're moving more towards machines. We'll get into some AI questions later today, but let's be honest, the humans have been doing the close the loop on what's working. What's the hardest part about getting the right set of data and info for you and your team to do an excellent job?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I joined Fiddler, it was a very young startup back then, 3.5 years ago. And so many different foundations of marketing, for instance, had to be put in place. So I used to use this analogy, and I've used it in previous podcasts as well, because I had to do some of that at my previous startup, Bugsnag, where it's like, you are walking to the brickyard every day, and then, some days you have to pick up 20 bricks and walk back. Some days it becomes 15, and then gradually it becomes 10, 5, and then you're like, oh, I'm done. I don't have to go back to the brickyard anymore. So, but all of that takes months and months, as you can imagine. And so at Fiddler, there was no data. And the way to go about building that data foundation is, one, it's like change management in any organization, that we're going to bring in, let's say we're going to bring in Marketo, we're going to bring in Salesforce. These are the things that we are going to track in it. This is the type of discipline everyone's going to need to have, because you have to put in your data. You're going to have to input your data, because we're going to use that as the source of truth. So there's a lot of change management in terms of people have to figure out their habits, and that now, there's going to be a weekly session where we're going to see how that data is looking and whether there's hygiene and whether people have been disciplined about it. So there's a lot of that in terms of cultural change. Luckily, we were able to, the path for us was, I wouldn't say that we had that much friction, but regardless, it still takes time, because there's so much that you have to configure and implement and, design all your workflows and how your funnel is going to look, what your pipeline is going to look like. Um, and then there's the other piece in terms of, besides the quantitative aspects of what this data is telling us, how do we get the qualitative input as well? And marketing is not the one who's necessarily with boots on the ground, right? We don't have our feet on the street all the time. And so we need that feedback loop. It has to be a two-way street, where we are enabling sales. We are preparing decks and content for, founders, my CEO, everyone to present via conferences, things like that. But if we don't get the feedback from these watering holes or whatever these venues may be, or from prospect and customer conversations, then again, coming back to that whole feedback loop improvement cycle, how are we going to do better? And so for that, you definitely have to make sure that there's this constant conversation on what did you learn, what did you hear, and please let marketing know when something needs to be changed or tweaked. And how do we collect that information? And it's so hard, because the intention is absolutely in the right place. People know that they should be doing that. Everyone wants, of course, to have better decks and better messaging and better analysis of what prospects may have said. And not just for marketing, maybe it's a feature gap analysis, right? It's sentiment analysis that can then influence the roadmap. And so, but things move so quickly. There's no time to be giving that feedback and necessarily making it a two-way street. When people do realize that, at Fiddler, we do get that information back. People are like, oh, I forgot to tell you, but here it is. Or, I was at this conference and this is what I heard. And over the last few months, I'm thinking we should be doing this. So a lot of that does start happening, but it's not that formalized. So what we do is we try to use Salesforce as that source of truth. Put in, our SDRs are really good about at least their discovery process. They try to put things in Salesforce, or they have their own trackers, spreadsheet land still, but it's being collected in places. So we have that information. The other thing that we have found to be useful is Gong. So there's some really great things that you can do with Gong reportings now. And so my product marketer is really excellent about using those summaries and analyzing those summaries even further. And that helps us with a huge amount of not only content that we produce, the messaging positioning that has to be iterated, and we are able to provide a lot of feedback to the product team as well.
Nice. Love that. Yeah, I call it the front lines, the boots on the ground, as you describe. So important to hear back from the front lines, but not only from like the loudest person in the room or the person giving that immediate direct feedback to you, for example.
Right.
So it's getting that collective feedback for the greater market and
Mhm.
then also giving team marketing, especially product team, time to digest and analyze and summarize and then come up with solutions as opposed to these one-offs.
That's
So
right.
it's actually pretty hard to do. And yeah, I agree. I always call it like the messy drawer. So you come back from the event or, you know, your round of meeting customers or something, and then you throw everything in the messy drawer and you get back to your day in your day
Mhm.
job. And so
Mhm.
like how do you find the gems in that messy drawer that are worth?
Right. So we have a system by which we have to rate or tier the folks that we meet, let's say at a conference.
Yeah,
And
love that.
so it's like low, medium, high, and then we have that's how it gets entered into Salesforce as well. So we know
Yeah,
where the tier one follow-ups have to be. There are notes
nice.
for each of these in terms of use case and needs and urgent need, must have, nice to have, all of that.
Yeah,
So people are pretty good
great.
about that.
Love that.
One thing I will say is that, everyone talks about how you need that collaboration between marketing and sales. And then, of course, marketing has to have that input to product. And then product is, in a way, enabling marketing. Marketing then enables sales. So all of that is true. One of the things that I think is very valuable is also getting engineering input, especially in cases like ours, where our product is very geared towards ML engineers, software engineers as well. And so to
Yeah,
really understand from the engineers on what would resonate with them, what works, what doesn't work, in terms of the ICP tweaking and the ICP optimization as well, engineers several times can provide some really beautiful, nuanced information. And so we work with different engineers on our team as well to make sure that they're different type of boots on the ground, if you will, right? They're not leaving the offices, but they're still a different type of boots on the ground. So I find that that input is also quite valuable.
yeah. Love that. And actually, most engineers want to hear and be involved. They actually
Hmm.
deeply care about how is
Hmm.
my product or
Hmm.
feature that I'm
Hmm.
developing. So
Yes.
I
And
like
when they're
that.
part of that cycle and then they see the data driven aspect of marketing and go to market, it really excites them a lot. And that
Yeah,
way you bring them into the fold where they are know why they're building what they're building.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I think this might be a quicker answer, but if you were to pick just one metric or KPI for the marketing team, what would that be?
It depends. So it really depends on the stage of the company, the size of the company, and where you're at. And each company is different. Products are different. Audiences are different, right? ICP, as we were saying, and they're different. So I would say that when you are a much younger company, well, going back to my own example, when I joined Filler, there was nothing, right? So many foundations had to be built up. There was not enough data. And as we started building out that data foundation, whatever we could track was great. So what could we start tracking first? You start tracking volume. And that's a good first step. It's not ideal, but that's a great first step in the absence of no other information. So I would say that volume was where we started, and that was an important metric. As we kept growing, you then need to start putting in the discipline for what I call the three main levers, or three main pillars, I would say, which is VVC, volume, velocity, and conversion. So then you have to start tracking those. And I would say ACV is pretty important as well. But for most part, I feel that the levers that really help you decide what to turn up and what to turn down so that you can, see where budgets have to go, where you have to focus, what are the changes different teams need to make, do we have to hire differently, how does headcount flow into all of that. I think it is VBC, so volume, velocity, and conversion is at so many different points. Once you have that in place, then you can start looking at some of the traditional SaaS metrics. But traditional SaaS metrics are, there's a CAC, there's a LTV, CAC LTV ratio, dollar net retention, all of that fun stuff. But some of going back to your question on, what is that one marketing metric? To me, it's real, and of course, win rate is an obvious one, but to me, it's really about pipeline and how much is for every dollar of marketing spend, how much pipeline do you think you're going to be able to generate? and what is the level of discipline that we have, in our data and everything that we are looking at, which is telling us what is that ratio of $1 marketing spend to pipeline creation, and then looking at the pipeline progression. So I look at this all the time in terms of how much you win in quarter, how much you're losing in quarter, how much is advancing to the next quarter and then rolling over. So I think that these are really important things to be looking at.
Yeah, that's that's a comprehensive answer, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate that. And it is like back to your earlier point, if you don't have the foundation built from an operations perspective and the engine, so all those KPIs and metrics, you can't even gather them and make
That's
sense of
right.
them.
That's right.
And
That's
ultimately, there's leading indicators and then there's sort of lagging indicators, right? So
right.
sometimes pipeline is like it's almost like a lagging indicator, but what are the things that are going to help you get to that from a building, net new, and then conversion downstream? So,
Right. Yes. I
yeah,
think
not
yes.
for the faint of
Conversions.
heart. We know this.
Correct. And conversions happen at every stage, right? And so what are the things that we need to do to improve our conversions as well? Yeah, and you're absolutely right about leading and lagging indicators as well. But there is, at the end of the day, I would advise, or I know that we are not necessarily going down that path, but I know that so many organizations, right? They like tell me like early on, it was like, so what is our gap? And I was like, it's so early. Our data is not does not have the hygiene. Our data is all over the place. There's so
Yeah.
many different elements by which everything is wonky inside Salesforce. We have to clean different aspects out. So my answer wouldn't be the right one. Oh, you don't have that maturity yet. Yes, we don't, but we're very much on our path of getting there, and now we are. So it's again, it's a journey, and you just need to know that if you again you build the data engine the right way, you will get there.
Yeah, correct. Uh, okay, so one last thing before we move into our AI um, part of our podcast. So, is it important for sales and marketing leaders to be fully aligned on the same set of metrics?
Yes, 100%. I mean, to me, sales and marketing it's the same team. It's two sides of the same coin. Sales starts with marketing. So I mean, 100%, right?
Yeah,
And
I think it's one of those, of course, but then it's like, well, in reality, it isn't. Sadly, like, why are we
so
even
hard.
talking about this, right?
That's right. It's so hard. It's so hard. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't work out several times, and companies have the issues or the dramas that they do, right? So, yes, you absolutely should be aligned. There's a lot of work that has to go in to make that alignment happen, to make that camaraderie happen. I feel that the marketing and the sales leaders, in addition to doing their day-to-day jobs, they really have to be the stewards of culture to make sure that both the teams have that relationship. And it's not just, I know that in the marketing world we talk a lot about the marketing and sales stories, but product and engineering have a healthy tension themselves as well. And
Yeah,
product and
yeah,
engineering
for
have
sure.
they have a lot of back and forth. They have a lot of give and take. And it's not as though marketing and sales are the only two organizations that have to deal with this strenuous, tedious relationships and outcomes. So I think there's learning from, that camp, learning from us, we learning from them. And then there's
Yeah,
marketing and product too. I've seen situations where the marketing and product relationship or product and sales relationship can be really tough. So I think we have to take it upon ourselves to be that culture steward and really make sure that we build
yeah,
that camaraderie. It's I think the whole problem starts with this notion of when people think it's so important to attribution, right? Because then it's like, what did I
yeah,
do versus you do, and the whole versus is what basically brings it all down.
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, that's like we could spend a whole hour talking about attribution tracking alone.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
need to do that. It's just the same. It's just the same team. What is the pipeline, and then what is the deal? What is the percentage win rate? What are we closing and
yeah,
why?
Yeah, you're responsible for nurturing at different stages of the journey. So if you want to have internal debates about you did that, I did that, then you're actually
Yeah,
just going to into analysis paralysis,
that's
which
right.
is not helpful for driving the ship forward.
Yeah. And I think CEOs and founders play a big role in this,
Yeah,
where it sometimes does start from the top.
yep,
I think that if they say that I don't care about attribution, I don't care about what came from where, this is the North Star, right? The North Star is the ARR, or maybe in some cases, the North Star is the expansion, or in some cases, the North Star could be CSAT, whatever it is, NPS, whatever it could be. This is
yep,
what we're driving towards, and everyone just make it happen. So yeah, my current founders and my founders at my previous startup were pretty good about that.
yeah. And
So
then stick with it for a while. Don't change the
that's
tune
right.
every month.
And I've seen that it makes a lot of difference when it comes from the top as well,
Yeah,
where we don't have to care about what is coming from where, because that's when the finger pointing starts.
yeah. Okay, so switching gears, a little bit of focus on the topic of AI and marketing and how teams are adopting in order to, operate smarter and faster. And I know you're an early adopter of AI, which is awesome. So how do you go about getting the team to more fully embrace AI solutions?
So at the start, when ChatGPT came around, and we know what the media cycle was about, and well, all the way to AI is going to destroy the planet and all of that, it's going to be the end of us. So I found that I had started tinkering with it a lot more than my team. I was researching it, I was looking into it, I was reading up on it. Then I was able to see how my team was not necessarily there. And I wanted to make sure that, again, there has to be this cultural shift where AI is not going to kill us or take away our jobs, and it's not definitely not going to take away the jobs that fit. It's actually going to make you a lot more productive, and it's going to give you the time to be a lot more strategic. All these tedious marketing is made out of so much minutia, right? It's like crazy. And so AI is there to take all this, boring, tedious, cumbersome tasks out of your day-to-day daily life. So use it. Why wouldn't you use it? And so Insight Partners, one of our BCs, they were doing a workshop on how to use ChatGPT for a variety of different marketing tasks, but also for strategic analysis. And so they invited the heads of marketing, and I asked whether I could bring a couple of my team members along, and they said absolutely. And that was a turning point for my team because it was really fun. We spent the day there. It was so enjoyable, and there was so much learning.
Yeah,
And I think that's how I could get my team to say, okay, all right, we're going to start doing this as well. This is truly going to help us. And now I
seeing
feel
it.
we're Yes, and now we're on the other extreme because now they all are like this tool and that tool and what should we look at? And no one has, absolutely nobody has that fear. They fully understand that it is a huge asset to know how to use AI and what to use it for.
Yeah,
So they're excellent about that. The only downfall there is that, well, it's not a downfall. The only thing that I have to keep reminding them is sometimes, don't spend too much time evaluating a tool because there are thousands of tools now, and there will be even more tools as the days and months continue. So when you find something that works, be experimental. Go ahead,
yeah,
try it out, see if it's working. If it doesn't, move on. But don't just keep evaluating because then you're not going to be able to move forward as well. So that whole experimental try. If you fail, that's totally fine. You'll move on to the next thing, and we'll have at the end of it, it's going to be a great outcome.
yeah. That's great. I love how you're bringing the team along and doing that active learning together because it is new and it's less scary when you're all cross-pollinating and sharing. And I'm a believer in document what you learn and then share it with everybody. So
Hmm.
if somebody can't make it, they can listen
Mhm.
to the. Yeah,
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I have folks on the team who are, in fact, nearly everyone is just very cutting edge and contemporary and, stays on top of what's in the market and different tools they could be using. So I really like that. And then we've created a couple of custom GPTs as well. And I think there's
yeah,
potential for them to be creating more of those. Yeah, but I just love the fact how now AI is fully embraced as a weapon, as an asset, you know?
Yeah, I love that. So one last question, and then we were almost at our time. So how do you adjust from traditional SaaS tech that you use? I know you're a Salesforce shop. I think you have Marketo. So you're moving towards this AI first, but do you have plans to wind down some of those SaaS solutions, or how do you think about evolving?
Hmm. Yeah. So for now, no, because if we were to become fully AI or nearly, the majority would be AI, you still need the human in the loop. And you AI is not gonna run on its own without humans tracking it and monitoring it. And we do AI observability. That's what Figure does. We are monitoring other people's AI systems. So AI still needs that oversight and vigilance, if you will, at least for now. The days of 100% automation are not here. And I know we're talking about agents and, multi-agents and all of that. All that is great. But yeah, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that. And I know so many MarTech and sales tech companies are developing those agents and launching them. So all that is going to be great, but you still need the human to be making sure that that agent is operating correctly and you're configuring that agent or whatever it may be. I don't think that we are. I don't think about so much on how much, how AI first do I need to be. It's about go with a tool, go with a technology that does the job the best. And so whether it's SaaS for some cases, so be it. Whether it's AI for others, so be it. We're gonna. It's a combination for now that is getting the job done. And right. And what's that? And what's that combination? Whatever that percentage may be, it's totally fine. I would have a problem if we were not embracing AI, which is not the case at all. And in certain aspects as well, if we could be using AI and we're not there, then that definitely bothers me, but not so much so the SaaS versus AI tech aspect.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think we were chatting earlier, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, and scared tactics, which isn't helpful. And I think there's just in the AI space in general, there's a lot of noise. And I'm always trying to encourage, if vendors are putting out legit, valuable marketing AI capabilities, then educate, inform, inspire. Fake news or scare tactics. If you're not running towards AI, you're going to be out of a job. We have a lot of deliverables and a lot of pressure, a lot of work to get done, right? Pick the right tool for the job, try to get rid of those mundane, repetitive tasks, but you still have to have decision making, final say, and you still have to analyze as you go. You still have to do a lot of work, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. When I am looking at people and hiring people, if they have not used AI, then that is an issue. As part of the interview process, actually, we do have exercises by which we give them certain problem statements and we watch how they do the prompting.
It's good advice.
And yeah, and we would, if I were to run some interviews now, I would also ask them about different tools and different technologies and why they chose them and what do they like about them or not. So it is an important aspect of the our interview process. I cannot have a marketer who is not AI ready. Let's say I don't know about AI first, but you gotta be AI ready. And we do the same thing on the data side as well, depending upon the type of role that you are coming into. For some interviews, we actually show you a large data set, and then we ask you to analyze it or find holes in it.
Oh, I love that. That's great. All right. Any parting words of wisdom, Kirti, before we sign off for the day?
I would say that, especially in the land of marketing and sales and I know there's so many consumer oriented products, it's fun. We don't need to be scared. It's really, really helps us improve in our jobs. And there's so much learning there. Stay on top of it, have fun with the different things that you can do, and it's just making you and more of a insightful marketer. Marketing has that potential to be drawing so much insight from this massive body of data, from all these different tools available, that marketers can really start becoming the the team that is providing these very key nuggets on whether it is influencing the roadmap, whether it's helping sales with enablement, comparative analysis, objection handling, whether it's helping engineering with various aspects as well. And then the operations and the HR side as well in terms of talent strategy and what is needed. I think that there's, marketing can start playing a huge role in the definition and evolution of an organization as a whole, not just the marketing function.
That's great. Well, thank you, Kirti, for your time today. This has been really valuable. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to the next in the podcast. Thank you all.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Deirdre.